Hello everybody. Today's video we're going to talk about operators. Operators. What are operators? Not the old telephone operators, but operators like mathematical operators and comparison operators, increment operators, that kind of thing. So let's take a look. So I have a little demo and I pre-wrote this little print message here, and I'll kind of show you what it is. Very simple. It's just doing this, but this will help us out as we go. Just wanted to point that out. So, okay, we have two numbers here. Define num1, num2, very basic. And we'll go over the basic operator. So something that you'd expect, like a plus, right? So let's say print result. And we'll say num1 plus num2. Now I have a bit of a gap here. Typically I don't do that. I don't have the extra space. Actually, you know what? My editor might. Yep, it took it away. I was going to leave it there to kind of make it easier to see, but oh well, the editor does not like it. So I wanted to show something here as well. A new, well, new if you've been following my videos at all. New command, the and here at the bottom. What this will do, just a quick explanation, is it will execute this command, and as long as it was successful, it will then move on to execute the second command. So in the past we've done the dang it, my scroll wheel is just misbehaving. So in the past we've done this as two steps, but I got tired of doing that, so let's do it in one. So there's one, and here we go. We got result was 3, exactly as we'd expect, right? Num1 plus 2 equals 3. Hopefully we know that one so far. The math, that is. Okay, so what are we going to get here if we do a minus? Let's save and run. -1, just as we'd expect. Okay, so you may not be familiar with these, but this is a division symbol in C++, and so let's try that out. 1 divided by 2. 0. And what if we swap here? What do we get? 2. There we are. So works out. Everything seems to be as expected. Let's do something with a little more oomph. I got a 5 in there now, so now we can mix it up a bit. But let's keep going with operators. As we go, we'll see more interesting stuff. But let's use this, the next one in place. This is the multiplication symbol. And so if you're familiar with multiplication, oh, I did that twice. I'll just get rid of that for now. Wait, no, did I do it twice? Nope, I didn't. That was a trick myself there. Okay, so that's now 2 times 1. So what should we get? Maybe it's a 2, maybe it's not. What do you know? It was a 2. Who would have thunk it? Excuse me. And as you would expect, it doesn't matter the order in which you put those. They're going to give you the same result. There we are. Kind of loading up here. We'll get rid of these when we move to the next set. But okay, let's move on to the next one. This is kind of an odd one here. I keep goofing there. So this percent sign, where is it? There we go. That's the modulus operator. So what we're going to get is basically the remainder of what a division would be, right? So if you had something where if you were doing long division you would get a remainder, this is the result of that, right? So you get a 1 here, right? So 1 divided by 2, you get a remainder 1. And what else should we try with this one, just to kind of show? Let's do 5. 5 divided by 2. What should that be? 2 with the remainder of 1. Is that correct? Let's look. It is. So an interesting thing we can do here, I'm going to turn these off for now so that we are not getting too clogged up here. Let's move that down. Oops. Let's do this, and let's say 5 divided by 2. What should the answer be? Well, the answer should be 2, if I'm not mistaken. There we go. So 5 divided by 2 gives you the 2. The modulus here gives you the 1, which is, again, the remainder. So this is great for even or odd type of, is this number even, is this number odd? It's a common thing. But there are other uses, of course, too, but that's a common one. But anyhow, those are kind of the basics. There are more operators, but that's what we'll cover here. So I'm going to get rid of this block here. And I'm just going to blow that all away for now. And we'll move down here. Actually, you know what? Why don't we move down here? That's a little bit better. Okay. So now you need to be familiar with if statements. Actually, we don't need the if statements. Let's do this. Booleans will be a numeric value, if I'm not mistaken. So let's try a comparison operator, and see what we get there when we do. Dang it! I really need a new mouse. Let's do print result, and we'll see what we get here. So let's say num5 is greater than num2. That should be false. What do you think we'll see? Alright, what should we get here if we have 5 is greater than 2? That is true. That's a 1, right? So that's what we're expecting as a true value. So if we have this opposite, say 2 is greater than 5, which is completely not correct, what should we get? A 0, a falsy value, right? Okay, so these other operators here, we have the greater than, the less than, the equals to. So this would be used not to set a value, but to check a value if it's equal to another. So this should be false. This should be true. Okay, so let's run this, and there you go. Let's see what else we have. Greater than or equal to. And so this works if, as the name suggests, if it's a greater or equal to a specific value. Less than or equal to. So in this case, let's do 2 here and 1. Let's say less than. So this should be a positive value, a 1. There we go. Because num is less than or equal to 2. So now if we swap this for a 2, it is now equal. So this should also return true. And there you go, right? So this is checking for both of those things. Now it's kind of a double check, so it is useful, but some people suggest not using this and just using greater than or less than, but it is definitely doable. It just, I think efficiency-wise, it may be faster to do either the positive or greater than or the less than. Okay, what else do we have here? Let's get this cleared out. And increment operators. So this is interesting. So we have plus plus, and that can go on either side of a variable. So let's do print result, and we'll say plus plus 2. Now what this is doing is it's going to, oh, oops, num2, I forgot. Of course, struggling a bit with the keyboard. So this should increment this number before the action. So we are saying, as this is being performed, this number has now incremented. It's gone up 1, and now does no longer does it equal 2, right? So now if we just say print 2 here, right, what do we get? It's 2. I guess it didn't increment it. Interesting. I see what I misunderstood. It's not assigning the value, it was just incrementing that in that place. But another example is doing it at the end. So what should our result be here? Also 2, right? So after this number should be 3. The other way, this number should be 3 before this happens, right? So the idea is in the front, the operation happens before this executes. On the back, it happens after that executes. So that is a helpful thing, but can be confusing, and you have to be very careful how you're using that. So just be aware that that's the case. So back to, we'll say, other things. Let's say num1, actually let's go print result, and we'll say num1 plus equals num2. And what should we get? 4. Why is it 4? That should be 3 if you were following, but let's just do print result num1 num2. Oops. And my suspicion is that these values have changed, so let's check it out. So 4 and 3, right? So num1 is now, let's get rid of these so it's not incrementing somewhere. Let's try again. Okay, there we are. So this was happening, changing the value of these numbers, right? So that's why we got these different values, because it wasn't simply, well, it was printing that out, but it was also impacting the number itself. Now that we're back to normal again. So these are similar things: plus equals, minus equals, as you can assume. It minus equals the thing, division equals, multiplication equals. So that's kind of what you get. So let's just say, let's do it like this: int result equals num2 times equals num5, and then we'll print that out. What do we see? 10. So you get the idea. So this is saying actually this should be num2 here. Let's try that. And there you are. So see, it's 10 here. So result above 1 and 2, 1 and 2. Here, the result of this, you would get the result as the result of that of the math here, but this is also now impacted that number, that value has been changed in place. So we don't have to reassign this value. That's what this is doing. It's doing the equivalent of reassignment. Something like this. It would be, if the num2 was still 2, it would be the equivalent of num2 equals num2 times num5. So this statement and this statement are equivalent. So hopefully that's clear. Alright, and let's go down to the last one we have here, precedence. So what this is saying, like math, there is an order, like an order of operations, so to speak, and some things will happen first and some things will happen second, right? So in this, let's come up with something. We'll say int result equals num2 to, we'll say, plus num2 times num5. So what's going to happen here? So the multiplication should happen before the addition. And so this should be the value of 10, and then this would be adding 2, so that would be 12, right? If it were the opposite way, this would be 4. 4 times 5, that would be 20. All right, so let's see what we get here. Make sure we're not fibbing. All right, and let's execute. And what do you see? 12, right? So that's what the precedence is. There isn't, like I said, an order of operations, and there are many, many things that fit into this, but you have to be aware of the precedence. So this is just kind of a brief snippet, but there's a big long list that you can find these online. But basically, the increment on this side, on the left side, would happen first in these examples at least, and then anything on the left side like that, then it would go on to multiplication and division, and then plus or minus at the end. But again, there are many other things that fit into the whole precedence that you could go and find. So anyhow, that's about it for what I wanted to cover for this. Just covering the kind of operators you'll run into, the most common ones at least. There are many other ones, but this is just kind of the basics, just an intro to what these are. So hopefully it's helpful. Thanks for stopping by, and I'll see you guys on the next vid.